Hello, friends. Today I'm going to be talking about, in my segment, Tips to Build On, going to be talking about staying within your budget. And also stay tuned at the end of this for the bonus tip. So I'm Patrick Harrington with Blue Sky Consulting. I've been in the home building industry all my life. My dad was a home builder. I got into the business right out of college. Actually worked in the business all the way through high school and my growing up years. But suffice it to say, I've been in this since the beginning. And as a builder, I've built dozens of custom homes. And as a consultant, I've helped hundreds of people build their own home. Owner builders, they get successful projects done. And I can help you too. Now for the tips. Tip number one, have a detailed plan. Now, that not only means the blueprints, but the budget plan. Think about things like the timeline to build your project, issues you might run into. I just finished a project not too long ago where their exterior doors weren't going to show up until December, and they poured their slab in June. That's a huge difference in a timeline. So consequently, we had to get with the framer and make some arrangements and make it very clear that he was going to have to come back and set those exterior doors. So another thing is have a contingency. I don't think there's a lender around that won't require a contingency in your project, but I suggest a 10% contingency. It may be tempting to try to get away with 5% contingency, but have that 10% in there. If you use it, fine. If you don't, you just establish your mortgage amount less the contingency. Okay, tip number two, establish what your non-negotiables are going to be. What can you just not live without in this house? I'll tell you, a reverse of a non-negotiable is a metal roof. When folks find out the added cost of a metal roof, they begin to think seriously about whether that should be part of their project or not. Of course, when they were first designing their house, yeah, put it on there. We love metal roofs. Okay, that's a whole different conversation. Tip number three, be realistic about the cost of each stage. Now, to do that, you really need to be working with somebody who can explain those stages to you and what to be looking at and how to stay realistic. Creating that detailed budget is all about doing that. I highly suggest you go talk to a lot of suppliers about the materials you're going to use, and a flooring contractor is a great example. Bring your plans to them, have them measure quantities for each item, for the flooring, for the wood flooring, for the carpet, for the tile in the bathrooms, for the tile in the backsplash. They're the skilled professionals. They can measure those things and come up with exact quantities to get you down to the real details of your budget. So get them involved. Be open to alternative building materials and building methods. Insulation is probably a real good example of that. You can insulate your house in a number of different ways. And everybody has their favorites. Everybody's heard about spray foam and they want to know a little bit more about it. But there are alternatives to spray foam. You can do a hybrid job. You can do cellulose in the exterior walls and spray foam in the attic and still get an extremely energy efficient house out of that. So all these things can be discussed as you're putting your budget together. Okay, tip number four, choose finishes before breaking ground. Now that's kind of what we've been talking about this whole time, is visit suppliers. Look at the finishes you want. Go to a window studio of some kind. Now, when I'm working with clients, I send them to some of my trusted vendors to look at windows, interior doors, a whole list of things. But that's what you want to do. You want to dig into exactly what you think you're going to use in your house and establish your budget based on that. And then up front, what that also does is it helps your timeline. If you've made your decisions of what windows you're going to use, you're going to pull the trigger on that in plenty of time to meet the lead times. If you haven't made that decision, you may all of a sudden find out, hey, these windows I really loved, are going to take 2 months to get to me. And, my house is going to be framed faster than that. So making those selections on the items will help the timeline. Okay. Tip number 5, keep the lines of communication very open. Be upfront about your budget expectations. I've worked with so many people that seem to think if they tell me their budget, then I'm just magically going to create a house that costs that much. That's not how it works. That isn't why anybody would ask you what your budget is. It's because that person wants to reverse engineer into your budget. Okay. And ask as many questions as you like. I mean, I'm a big believer there are no stupid questions. The only stupid question is the ones that you never asked. So ask those questions. And now for the bonus you've been waiting for. Well, it's kind of anticlimactic, but develop a budget you can live with. Share that budget with whoever you're working with. Now, of course, I'd love to work with you as an owner builder, and I'd love to start working with you before you start drawing those plans. I see so many people that draw plans with no input on costs, and all of a sudden they're looking at a plan that's going to cost 1.2 million, and oh my gosh, we only wanted to spend 600. Well, that's because it was designed in a vacuum. If you can work with somebody from the very beginning, you have a much, much better chance of hitting that budget that you want to hit. So that's my bonus tip. If you can manage it, start working with somebody as early as you possibly can, like right when you start drawing plans, and you will get to those budget numbers, that you want. So excuse that. That's what I call reverse engineering or deconstruction of the project. You're actually doing it in reverse. And if you're starting from ground zero with the design, you're starting from a very good place. So thanks for listening. I hope you got something out of this. Subscribe to my channel, and I'll see you again. Bye-bye.